Is Richard, and the topic of his travel onto the usefulness of Toastmasters is, of course, familiarity breeds education.
The title is at the top of the page.
Yeah, exactly. The title is Toastmasters and St. Augustine. Oh, God. Sorry about that. The theme is familiarity breeds education, but the title of his speech, our historian, our philosopher, the only, please help me welcome, Richard.
Thank you. I joined Toastmasters about 30 years ago in the Shell building in downtown Houston, Texas. There was a little lady there who was an ex-nun. I never grew up Catholic, doing anything about it. The place was crawling with ex-nuns and ex-priests. Interesting. And this little gal, she was so good at table topics because no matter what the question was, she could tie it in to St. Augustine. Now, I did not know who St. Augustine was, but I was impressed. I thought, wow, that's important there. If you can just kind of pull a name out of your ear that sounds authoritative and say, I suggest support this position because St. Augustine said that, well, that's pretty clever. Later, I read up on St. Augustine and found he was the most influential man in history. Extremely influential. We see St. Augustine's fingerprints all over the cultural world we live in. So let me give you a little background on this. St. Augustine is probably one of the first Toastmasters. He was born in northern Africa around 300 AD. His father was a pagan, as was common in those days. They worshiped Baal, by the way.
Whoa.
Baal, the Old Testament god that was in conflict with Yahweh. That's what they were doing, and they were kind of the descendants of the Carthaginians. And his mother was a Christian. But his idea of Christianity was, these were early Christians. His idea was that God was a guy who lived on the other side of the mountains in a body, walked around. That's their idea, because these were early Christians. He hadn't refined this. But what Augustine did was he invented Christianity. Now, you may have heard rumors that Jesus invented Christianity, nothing to do with that, or Paul invented the church, but it was St. Augustine who invented Christianity and inflicted many of his personal kinks upon us through that conduit. How about that? Okay. Yeah. All right. For example, he was little smart lads who went to school, went to Rome and studied speech, and rhetoric, and law, and all that, and was very good on his feet about talking about things. And he became a Manichaean, who was the religion that was very popular at that time, had to do with black and white. Everything was either this or that. And then he became a Neoplatonist, which were the people who really thought about beauty and logic and purity really hard until they went into a trance about it. And then he was sitting in his garden. He was a very troubled person. And he had a psychological breakdown. Saw visions, passed out, and went crazy. He had a schizophrenic breakdown, as is common. And he got up and gave up the law and began to write Christian theology. And he invented it all. Now, when he was a young man, he had this thing about sex. He really liked it. And he had some wild times in bars and Corsica. And he looked back on that and said, this was a wrong thing to do. I should be thinking about God 24/7. And throughout his life, he couldn't stop thinking about other things than God. So he said, sex is a terrible thing. Stop, don't think about God. And that sexual shame, which was alien, it was new to the ancient world. The ancient world, they did not have that, I'm told. They did not connect shame with that. It was like, well, you gotta eat breakfast, you gotta eat eggs, or you gotta eat bacon. But he inflicted his shame into the very root of Christianity. And then it spread from there throughout Europe. And then it slapped over to the Reformation, and then went over to the Protestants, and we have it here in Portland, Oregon. He was extremely influential person in that regard. He spent the next 40 or 50 years of his life writing Christian theology, making it up, pulling it out of his ear, he went back and took all the things he learned, the Manichaeans and their black and white stuff, and then the Neoplatonists with their ideas about how if we just think real hard and ponder and we recite and we go to a monastery and all this, put in all that business. Interesting about the Manichaeans, to show you how alien the world was from us, the Manichaeans had an idea about how the world was created. See, at the beginning, there was a legion of bad demons and a legion of good demons. Bad and good. And they got into a massive fight in which they ate each other. Kind of a cannibalistic, cosmic struggle. Until there were only two demons left. A good demon and a bad demon. And they had sex and gave birth to the earth. Okay, see, we think of our culture as our ideas as, universal and normal, and but no. The world came from someplace very different from ours. It evolved from that. So he was part of the Manichaean world for a while, and then he went to see the most famous holy Manichaean leader, and the guy didn't know anything about anything. So he wandered out of Manichaeanism and into Neoplatonism, and then started writing his own stuff. So it's really fascinating to me is if you read the Bible, if you read the New Testament, there is practically no theology in it at all. None. It's just not there. They hadn't invented it. St. Augustine invented it. And you turn on talk radio today and you hear all this blast of stuff coming at you about the hierarchy and Jesus Christ and the Trinity and this and that and the other. It's like there's a schematic diagram. It's always been there on the sky. Stuff was invented by St. Augustine of Hippo, one of the first Toastmasters. He was famous for his oratorical skill. He was a lawyer. He could speak on any issue at any time, and he could make stuff up off the top of his head. He could give a 7-minute speech on the history of Christianity at Toastmasters and mention a great saint. And so, for Toastmasters, the point here is that when you go to Toastmasters, you become familiar with new ideas, and if you research them, you find out that it's an amazing world we come from. And we owe our understanding of the entire universe to Toastmasters. Mr. Toastmaster.
Hey! Oh, all right. Shame on you.
Let us take a minute now and write down some words for our learned speaker. We'll have some quiet on the floor as we're writing our notes.
Schizophrenia, huh?
That was a hot.
Yeah.